July 1st, 2021. A Florida state agency accidentally deposits $5,057,850 into a company bank account. The invoice was for $50,578.50, a decimal point error. The CEO of that company, a woman named Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick, screenshots the bank balance and texts it to her brother Edwin. She never reports the mistake. She never returns the money. Instead, over the next 4 months, she launders it through shell companies, buys a $109,000 fancy vivid yellow diamond ring, and funds a congressional campaign she will win by exactly 5 votes out of 23,319 ballots cast. Today, Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick is a sitting member of the United States Congress. She faces 15 federal charges and up to 53 years in prison. This is the story of how stolen disaster money bought a seat in the House of Representatives. Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick was born on January 25, 1979 in Brooklyn, New York, to Haitian immigrant parents. She earned a law degree from St. Thomas University in Florida and became the Chief Executive Officer of Trinity Healthcare Services, a family-owned home healthcare company based in Miramar, Florida. On paper, she was a community leader serving South Florida's large Haitian American population. But Cherfilus-McCormick wanted more than a corner office. She wanted political power. She ran for Congress in 2018, challenging the incumbent Representative Alcee Hastings in the Democratic primary for Florida's 20th congressional district. She lost. She ran again in 2020. She lost again. Across both campaigns, she raised a combined total of $109,380. She was a political nobody with an ambition that far outpaced her resources. And that gap between ambition and money is where this story turns dark. In April 2021, Alcee Hastings died at 84 years old of pancreatic cancer. He had held the seat since 1993. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis called a special election to fill the vacancy. 11 Democratic candidates filed to run. In a district rated D+22 by the Cook Political Report, winning the Democratic primary was the same as winning the seat. Cherfilus-McCormick entered the race for a 3rd time, but this time something was different. This time she had access to money, millions of dollars, and the source of that money is what federal prosecutors now call a crime. In March 2021, Trinity Healthcare Services signed a contract with the Florida Division of Emergency Management to staff FEMA-funded COVID-19 vaccination sites across South Florida. Both Sheila and her brother, Edwin Cherfilus, age 51, were authorized signers on Trinity's corporate bank account. Over the following months, Edwin submitted 17 invoices to the state. Routine billing, routine payments, until invoice number 18. On July 1st, 2021, the Florida Division of Emergency Management processed a Trinity Healthcare invoice. The bill was for $50,578.50. But a clerical error, a misplaced decimal point, turned that figure into $5,057,850, nearly 100 times the correct amount. $5 million of federal disaster relief money, money allocated by FEMA to help Americans survive a pandemic, landed in Trinity's corporate bank account in a single-wire transfer. According to the federal indictment, Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick immediately noticed. She took a screenshot of the bank account activity showing the massive deposit and texted it to her brother Edwin. But she did not do what any honest person would have done. She did not call the state agency. She did not flag the error. She did not return 1 cent. For 30 days, the $5 million sat in that account. Then the money started moving. On August 11th, 2021, exactly 1 day after the filing deadline for the special election, Trinity Healthcare sent a check for $2.4 million to a company called SCM Consulting Group. That company had been created by Cherfilus-McCormick just 5 months earlier, in March 2021. She was the sole listed officer. Her personal Miramar home address was the registered business address. That same day, a check for more than $190,000 went to the EC Firm, LLC, a consulting company owned by her brother Edwin. It too had been created in March 2021 and was also registered to a Miramar home. Two shell companies, both created the same month Trinity landed the FEMA contract, were controlled by the same two siblings, and both were suddenly flush with cash from a government overpayment that was never reported. The transfers kept coming. On August 12th, approximately $1.25 million was wired to a Delaware-based management company controlled by relatives of the Cherfilus family. On August 16th, more than $830,000 was paid to an Orlando-based consulting company. On August 31st, roughly $1 million was shifted into a money market account the siblings had opened together. The money was being scattered across accounts, across states, across companies, in what prosecutors describe as a deliberate effort to disguise the source. And then came a purchase that would become the most recognizable symbol of this entire scheme. On September 1st, 2021, Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick used a cashier's check for $109,000 to buy a 3.14 carat, fancy, vivid yellow diamond ring from a jewelry store headquartered in New York City. That ring would later appear prominently on her left hand in her official United States congressional portrait. But the diamond ring was a side purchase. The real objective was power, and to get it, Cherfilus-McCormick needed to funnel the stolen FEMA money into her campaign without leaving obvious fingerprints. According to the indictment, she and her chief of staff, Nadege LeBlanc, age 46, devised a straw donor scheme. They sent money from the FEMA contract to friends and relatives, who then donated to Cherfilus-McCormick's campaign committee, SCM for Congress, as if the money were their own. Each donation was capped at $2,900, the maximum legal contribution. LeBlanc coordinated at least 5 straw donors and texted Cherfilus-McCormick photographs of the personal checks as proof of each transaction. The scheme had actually started even before the $5 million windfall. On June 25, 2021, days before the overpayment, Cherfilus-McCormick wired $50,000 from the Trinity account to a relative who passed the cash to LeBlanc, who wrote 2 checks for $2,900 each to SCM for Congress. The scale of the transformation was staggering. In her 2 previous congressional campaigns combined, Cherfilus-McCormick had raised $109,000 in total. For this special election, her campaign reported raising $6.7 million. Much of it self-funded through loans from money prosecutors say was stolen. She vastly outspent every other candidate in the 11-person primary field. On November 2, 2021, the votes were cast. When the counting ended, Cherfilus-McCormick led Broward County Commissioner Dale Holness by 5 votes. 5 votes out of 23,319 ballots cast. 11,662 to 11,657. A hand recount confirmed the margin, 5 votes. The narrowest margin you can imagine in a race that was only competitive because one candidate had access to $5 million that did not belong to her. On January 11, 2022, Cherfilus-McCormick won the general election with 79% of the vote against Republican Jason Mariner. She was sworn into the United States Congress and became the first Haitian-American Democrat to serve in the House of Representatives. The Office of Congressional Ethics later reported that her income in 2021 was more than $6 million higher than in 2020, driven by $5.75 million in consulting and profit-sharing fees from Trinity Healthcare Services. She won a full term in 2022. She ran unopposed in 2024. For 3 years, Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick served in Congress on a foundation built with stolen pandemic relief money, and nobody stopped her. But investigators were watching. In September 2023, the Office of Congressional Ethics opened a formal inquiry into Cherfilus-McCormick's finances. In May 2024, the renamed Office of Congressional Conduct referred the case to the bipartisan House Ethics Committee, stating they had found probable cause to believe she had accepted campaign contributions linked to an official action. That December, the Florida Division of Emergency Management filed a civil lawsuit against Trinity Healthcare Services, alleging $5.8 million in overpayments for work that was never actually performed. Trinity eventually settled, agreeing to repay $5.62 million. In July 2025, the House Ethics Committee unanimously voted to reauthorize an investigative subcommittee focused solely on Cherfilus-McCormick. That subcommittee would go on to review more than 33,000 documents. It would conduct 28 witness interviews, issue 59 subpoenas, and meet 12 times. And while the congressional investigators were building their case, so was the Department of Justice. On November 19, 2025, a federal grand jury in Miami returned a 15-count indictment against 4 defendants. Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick was charged with conspiracy to commit theft of government funds, conspiracy to commit money laundering, conspiracy to make and receive straw donor contributions, making and receiving straw donor contributions, conspiracy to make a false and fraudulent statement on a tax return, and aiding and assisting a false and fraudulent statement on a tax return. Her brother Edwin Cherfilus was charged alongside her. So was Nadege LeBlanc. And so was David K. Spencer, age 41, of Davie, Florida, the tax preparer who prosecutors say helped Cherfilus-McCormick file a fraudulent 2021 tax return that classified stolen money and political spending as business expenses and inflated her charitable contributions. The maximum sentences tell the story of how seriously prosecutors are treating this case. Cherfilus-McCormick faces up to 53 years. Edwin Cherfilus faces up to 35 years. Spencer faces up to 33 years. LeBlanc faces up to 10 years. The investigation was conducted jointly by the FBI Miami Field Office and the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. Attorney General Pam Bondi called the case what it was. She said, "Using disaster relief funds for self-enrichment is a particularly selfish, cynical crime. No one is above the law, least of all powerful people who rob taxpayers for personal gain." U.S. Attorney Jason Rading Quinones added that public money belongs to the American people, and that when FEMA funds are diverted for personal or political gain, it erodes trust and harms us all. On November 25, 2025, Cherfilus-McCormick surrendered to authorities in Miami. She was released on a $60,000 bond and ordered to surrender her personal passport. She was permitted to keep her congressional passport for official travel between Florida and Washington. And then came Christmas. On December 25, 2025, Cherfilus-McCormick posted a holiday greeting on social media. The photo showed her smiling in front of American and Florida flags, but observers noticed something missing. The yellow diamond ring, a 3.14-carat fancy vivid yellow diamond that prosecutors allege was purchased with stolen FEMA funds, had been digitally removed from her hand. Her office later admitted the edit was a staff-level decision that was unauthorized and should not have occurred. The Congresswoman, they said, had no intention of altering her official portrait, but the damage was done. The image of a woman accused of stealing disaster money, photoshopping out the evidence of her spending, went viral. On January 29, 2026, the House Ethics Committee's investigative subcommittee released a 59-page report containing 27 counts of alleged violations. The report stated that investigators had found substantial evidence of conduct consistent with the allegations in the indictment, as well as more extensive misconduct. The new allegations went beyond the FEMA theft. The report accused Cherfilus-McCormick of accepting approximately $810,000 in impermissible corporate contributions linked to Petrogaz Haiti, a Haitian oil company, funneled through shell entities and outside groups to support her 2022 re-election campaign. In February 2026, Cherfilus-McCormick pleaded not guilty to all 15 federal charges. She called the indictment unjust, baseless, and a sham. She said, "I am innocent." The timing alone is curious and clearly meant to distract from far more pressing national issues. Her attorney, David Oscar Marcus, said the case involves mistakes that generally are not even misdemeanors, let alone felonies. He later withdrew from representing her before the House ethics proceedings. The Ethics Committee took the extraordinary step of convening an adjudicatory subcommittee, a panel that holds public hearings to determine whether the charges are proved by clear and convincing evidence. This kind of proceeding is extremely rare. The Ethics Committee has not held a televised disciplinary hearing in nearly 15 years. The hearing was originally scheduled for March 5, 2026, but was postponed to March 26th after Cherfilus-McCormick's attorney withdrew and she requested time to retain new counsel. As of today, Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick still sits in Congress. She refuses to resign. Representative Greg Steube, a Republican from Florida, has introduced a privileged resolution to expel her, calling it an automatic disqualifier. But expulsion requires a 2/3 vote of the full House. Even if every Republican voted in favor, roughly 80 Democrats would have to join them. Her 2026 primary challenger, a 27-year-old teacher and activist named Elijah Manley, has already outraised her, bringing in $114,000 in the third quarter of 2025, compared to her $68,000. Manley called the indictment a sad moment for the people of Florida's 20th Congressional District and said the people of Florida's 20th are ready to move past this era of fraud, corruption, and distractions. Here is what should keep you up at night. The entire scheme began with a single clerical error by a state agency. One misplaced decimal point. And the only reason it was ever discovered is that the overpayment was so large, $5 million on a $50,000 invoice, that it eventually drew attention. The Florida Division of Emergency Management processed billions of dollars in pandemic relief funds. How many smaller overpayments, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, went to companies that quietly kept the money and never got caught? How many other invoices had an extra zero that nobody flagged? Cherfilus-McCormick got caught because she was greedy enough to use stolen disaster funds to buy a congressional seat and a diamond ring. The quiet thieves, the ones who took less and spent smarter, may never face justice at all. A $50,000 invoice, a misplaced decimal, $5 million, 5 votes, 1 seat in Congress, and a 3.14 carat yellow diamond ring that someone tried to Photoshop out of a Christmas card. That is the story of Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick. If you believe no one should be above the law, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. Justice never sleeps.